Miss anything, we'll get this party started. Welcome to our first Dharma Hour. And this is something that we put together just a few weeks ago. We were having one of our regular monthly meetings, Kristen and I, thinking about the year and some of the plans we have in the works. And, one of the things that we're always preaching, and we're going to talk about it tonight, is how do we respond to the need of the moment? That's what Dharma points us to. And as a collaboration, we're constantly asking, how can we meet the needs of our community? And what does our community really need right now? And both separately had been hearing from clients and friends and neighbors and community members. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, in our country, and for some of us within ourselves. So there's no shortage of challenge, no matter what time of day, what day of the month, what month of the year. And also it feels like things are a bit dialed up right now. And so one of the things that we hold strong to is that Dharma helps us know how to respond to the moment, no matter what's going on in our life or in the world. And sometimes that's about responding in doubt. And how do we be with things like doubt and uncertainty, especially when it feels like it's not going away anytime soon. And so one of our guiding principles here at Dharma Laundry is to make our teachings about Dharma more accessible, which is why this is free. And this is why it's recorded. So it's a resource for you, and you can come back to it as many times as you might need it. And you can also share it to as many people who might need to hear it. Because this is an ancient teaching. Dharma is not, it's not new. It's been around the block, a few thousand years old, and yet there's still so much that comes from it, such a rich philosophy that both Kristen and I have found personally to be so enriching, but also collectively we found it to be incredibly useful and helpful, in particular for the times that we're living in. And so that's what we get to do in these classes. So every month for the foreseeable future, we want to gather with our community, invite you into these, and we will have different inspired themes and topics that are all rooted in Dharma as a way to support you working with this philosophy in a very practical and daily practice. And so we're calling them Dharma Hours, and I'm excited to share our first one with you all this evening. So I want to turn it over to Kristen for a little grounding meditation. But before I do, I want you all to share in the chat box what is something that you need right now. And it may not even pertain to the topic. It may not be why you showed up tonight, but just in general, think about where you are in your life or your work or in your relationships or just in your thoughts. What is something you need right now at this moment? And I can't promise that I can get it to you, but it's nice to be able to name it and say, this is what's up for me. So go ahead and put that in the chat box for us. Awesome. Thanks, Emma. Anything that helps regulate my system. Yeah, here.
Coming up next.
Mhm. Very true. Yeah.
Right. Well, while people are dropping their responses to that invitation into the chat box, I thought I'd just tee up our topic for this evening. As Andrea said, we're going to have a different topic each month, but it's all under the umbrella of Dharma and how Dharma can help us recenter into ourselves, our true selves, and help us to navigate times of uncertainty. Because let's face it, things might feel dialed up right now, as Andrea said, but we always are meeting with times of uncertainty, and uncertainty can range in all shapes and sizes. So we need these tools all the time, but it's when things get dialed up that we are really seeking it out. So we just thought this would be a great way to call people in and remind ourselves, including Andrea and myself, of the wisdom and the groundedness of these teachings. So tonight's topic, we're leading off with what's Dharma got to do with it? So why are we recentering Dharma? And we're going to do a little deep dive on that tonight. But before we do so, let's just kind of all arrive in the same space. We're all coming from different corners of the world. We're coming from different, circumstances. And now we find ourselves in this shared virtual space. So let's all take this next few moments just as an arrival point. So I invite you to set down anything that you may be holding on to. If you're not already muted, please go ahead and do so. And you can either drift the eyes closed Or if it feels more grounding and safe for you, you can just cast your gaze downward toward the surface in front of you and gently soften the focus of your eyes. And just begin by taking a few breaths, just a few nourishing breaths, however deep you may need to just fill your lungs and feel your lungs. Allow yourself to feel yourself breathing. Notice the breath breathing you. Notice how it flows in and notice how it flows out. And just allow yourself to breathe in whatever way it feels nourishing, that it feels relaxing, comforting, bringing in vitality, bringing in presence. You can just allow the breath to breathe you naturally, or you can adjust the breath as you may see fit to really ground yourself into the body, to feel the body, perhaps even for the first time today, to really feel yourself present in the body, which allows us to presence ourselves in the moment, in the immediacy of the moment. Our thinking mind likes to take us to many, many places in the past and to many, many imaginary points into the future. So just allow yourself to be present with what is right now. And you can do so by just noticing how your body meets support in the space that you occupy, the physical space. So whether you're seated on a chair or on the couch, maybe on the floor, maybe in your car. So wherever you're seated, notice how your body is supported and situated. Notice how the furniture or the ground beneath you is holding your body. And on your next few exhales, just allow yourself to surrender a bit more to that support. Allow yourself to land where you are seated. And allow yourself to feel the gravity of the body. Feel your connection to the earth's energy that we call gravity. This is Mother Earth holding you. And to just allow the next exhale or two to just receive her embrace. Receive that the earth has got you in this moment, holding you, supporting you gently. And just allow the corners of the mouth to turn up slightly in the half smile of the Buddha. Appreciating that you are here, that you are present. Appreciating your answer to our invitation. Something in it spoke to you. And you said yes, and you made the necessary arrangements to show up either live tonight or watching this recording. So just smile with gratitude for yourself for showing up, whatever that might look like to you tonight. I know that you are appreciated. Your presence is appreciated, not just in this virtual space, but just for your presence in your corner of the world. You are appreciated. And on your next exhale, you can just let that go. Let it all fade with the breath. And just gently begin to flicker the eyes back open, take in the physical space around you. And take in the virtual space, noticing those who are present with you. And with that, we'll get started with tonight's content. Thank you, everybody, for playing along, and I hope that was helpful. A grounding start. So, what is Dharma? And what the heck's it got to do with anything that we might be talking about in today's world, right? Andrea talked about it a little bit already. She teed things up for us. But just as a reminder, I want to share a definition for Dharma with you that I got from Tom Knowles, who is a Vedic master. He said that in its essence, Dharma is the natural, intelligent unfolding of life when we are aligned with the deepest truth of our being. Dharma is the natural, intelligent unfolding of life when we're aligned with the deepest truth of our being. Just a beautiful reminder, I think. So Dharma, I think this is so reassuring to note that Dharma is not about doing more. When we talk about our Dharma, it's not about dialing up more effort and activity. I mean, yes, we can do that to help us discern our Dharma or to learn about what Dharma is. That's an intellectual exercise, and that is fruitful as well. But to live our Dharma, and oftentimes to even discern our Dharma, but in a less proactive way, is to do some of the following of what Andrea and I are going to be sharing with you tonight. It's not about that external effort. It's how you show up. It's how you show up in any given moment for yourself and for others who are in your circle of influence. So we can rest assured that we're always living our Dharma to some extent or another, because our Dharma is who we are. And in the role or in the times of uncertainty, of doubt, of challenge, and again, as we said, that can be many different shapes and sizes. So some of the examples that you might think of could be really triggering, really heavy, really loaded. But there's also small things too, just those little irks and annoyances that we all encounter throughout life. But in any challenging time or difficult moment, Dharma can help us in a number of ways. So first of all, Dharma acts as a clarifying guide in a moment of challenge or in a heavier crisis. So challenging times can really act as catalysts for us to discover and also embrace our purpose. So we want to offer you some living questions throughout tonight's offering. And if you're not familiar yet with our living questions, these are sort of tools that we can pull out to help us navigate our way when we're bumping up against something. So I've got 3 living questions that I'm going to offer you in this first segment. And Andrea's got some as well, I believe, right, Andrea? In yours? Yeah, okay, great. So you might write these down, and we will also have them written down for you when we send out the recording. So if you didn't capture it all, trust that you will have it. So as far as Dharma acting as a clarifying guide, one of the living questions that you can use to help you activate your Dharma when you bump up against something might be this. What is this moment asking me to remember about who I truly am? What is this moment asking me to remember about who I truly am? And I believe Andrea is dropping these questions into the chat box too, if you want to cut and paste. But again, let's be present with what's being offered. So that's our first piece. Dharma also aligns our gifts with our actions. Now, notice I didn't say that Dharma aligns our actions with our gifts, because we want to think of our gifts, how we show up, our true essence, our true nature as our foundation. And from there, we perform action. Because remember, Tom Knowles had reminded us that Dharma is that unfolding that arises from the deepest truth of our being. So part of the deepest truth of our being is our gifts, is our essence. So we can live our Dharma by aligning our gifts with our actions. So living question here might be, How can I root into my gifts right now and let my next step emerge from that foundation? How can I root into my gifts right now and let my next step emerge from that foundation? The final piece here is that Dharma is strengthened through our struggles. So, challenges deepen our self awareness. They help to clarify what really matters to us, what our values are, what we really care about, and ultimately want to prioritize. And they also push us to question old patterns and hopefully shed what no longer serves us. So, when we bump up against those old patterns, it brings that deeper awareness and it helps to clarify what really matters to us so that we can kind of do a little bit of a software upgrade. So the result is obviously going to be a more authentic expression of who you are. And let's also remind ourselves that, just because we're upgrading our software in any given moment doesn't mean that we weren't living authentically before. But as life progresses and we have these challenges that help to clarify who we are for ourselves, we we're we are upgrading our own awareness of who we are. We're learning better who we are. So it's not that we've lived inauthentically, it's just that, oh, now I understand more truly who I am. So a living question here might be, what old pattern or belief is this revealing? And what truer version of myself is waiting to emerge? What old pattern or belief is this revealing, and what truer version of myself is waiting to emerge? So these living questions are things that we can pull out on in any given moment as sort of a clarifying or a North Star, if you will, to help us respond to the need of the moment that is more aligned with who we want to be and who we know ourselves to be. And these are also deeper questions that we can just contemplate on an ongoing basis or in a more reflective time. They can be great journal prompts. They can be great things to have like on your phone when you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I just took this class and there were these living questions. What were those again? Would one of those help me right now? And you can use it as a little cheat sheet for navigating something that you might bump up against. All right, Andrea, what have you got for us beyond that?
Yeah, and we have plenty of time here, so I want to give everyone a minute. Well, I'll give you 2 minutes, and I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to go work with one of these questions. But I want to put a little asterisk by that says you're gonna want to spend more than 2 minutes on this at any time in the future. I just want to give us a little taste of these tools in practice as we're talking about really kind of heady topics like Dharma. How do we ground into it? And this is one of those ways, is we take something like a living question and we try it on and we see what information does it have for us that can apply to me in the here and the now. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Pick one, just one of these three questions are in the chat box. And I recommend choosing the one that you just respond to, something that you have just a visceral response to, and whatever that means to you. So I will time us. I'll give you 2 minutes here, and you're not going to share. This is going to be personal. This is private. So you're going to keep this to yourself. So this isn't something we're going to do a breakout room around. I want you just to have this for yourself. So I'll put 2 minutes on the clock. And again, pick one of the three that Kristen has presented so far.
And you can find those in the chat, just as a reminder.
All right, you've got about 30 seconds. I know that was wicked fast. Again, you can always come back to this later. So finding a final thought or wrap up point. And again, we will be sharing these questions and a few more that we have coming up when we follow up with you all in a couple of days. So you'll have them all written down. And again, these are questions that, we call them living questions because you're never done answering them. And you could come back to them in a week, in a month, in a year, and you'd find something different than you found today. So they're there to support you in whatever way you need. So how do we do this? How do we recenter ourselves in our Dharma, especially in difficult times? And if we're defining, there's many ways to define Dharma, but for this gathering tonight, we're defining it as the natural, intelligent unfolding of life when we are aligned with our deepest truth of our being. Oh, Kristen shared that with me earlier, and I think I said that's so delicious. That was my feedback. That's such a delicious way to think about it. And if we are here tonight talking about how do we recenter into something that is our Dharma because of what's going on either around us or within us or going on within us in response to what's going on around us, we're ultimately recentering ourselves into ourselves. We're recentering ourselves back into us. We cannot respond or react or show up or take action until we know and remember wholeheartedly, well, who am I at my core? What is my truth? And when we talk about our true being or our higher self, we capitalize it. True self, capital T, capital S, higher self, capital H, capital S. So when we talk about recentering ourselves in our Dharma, we're really talking about recentering ourselves within ourself, our capital S self. And if you aren't sure where to begin, because even that sounds like some heady instruction, and you're not sure how to recenter yourself in your Dharma because maybe you forgot. What is my Dharma? Oh, right. How do I do this? I forget. Kristen forgets. We all forget. This is why we do these practices. Then what we recommend is that you look to your small corner of the world. If you forget what your Dharma is and you're not sure where to begin recentering yourself within just your truth, then you start with where you're already planted. You start with your small corner of the world. And I want to share one of my favorite quotes from Stephen Cope. This is out of this book, which we recommend. We will be recommending, as long as we are collaborating, this will be top of our shelf. The great work of your life. As you can see, it's been well loved. And I'll put this in the chat as well. But Stephen Cope says in this book, you only have to love what you already love. You only have to love your small corner of the world, but you have to do it intentionally and full out, and you have to get yourself out of the way. And I will add that you also have to see your small corner as enough. You have to see where you're already planted and what you're already poised to do from where you're planted as enough. And as Kristen already pointed to a few minutes ago, it's not about doing more or getting big or going beyond ourselves. It's about coming back to that really simple truth of who am I already being and what's already right within or right in front of me. So I'm going to put that quote in the chat real quick. You only have to love what you already love. You only have to love your small corner of the world, but you have to do it full out. And he says intentionally. And I'm the one who adds and see it as enough. Because I think that's something we don't always do so well. So each of us already embodies a small corner, but what is a small corner, right? It's just a metaphor for something. What is a small corner of the world? And a small corner of the world is both a physical location and it's a psychological location. So physically, where are you rooted? And I mean, where, we all talked in the chat when we came in where you're physically planted. We have people here from Colorado and California, LA, Palm Desert, Portland. So where are you physically rooted? And you can look to the left and the right of you. Who are your neighbors? Who is your community members? Who are your colleagues? Who's the person who brings up your groceries? Who makes your coffee in the morning? Who are the people that you're physically surrounded by and that you have purposely surrounded yourself with as well? We might call that your inner circle or those people that, mean the most to you. You are physically planted someplace, as well as the city you choose to live in, the home you embody, the place where you've put down roots, the place that you've decided to make your home. That's a physical small corner of the world. And I promise you, there is more that can be done from that small corner than you will ever get done. And you'll need to get it done. But are we doing what we can from where we're planted? That's our physical small corner. So, a living question that we may play with here is, what can I do from right where I'm rooted today? It seems small, but it's not small. I'm going to just put this in our chat here. What can I do from right where I'm rooted today? And I just gave rootedness a little definition. I'm telling you that it's your physical place of being, where you embody. And then our small corner is also a psychological location. It's something that's within us. So, what are you built for? What's your nervous system built for? What are you emotionally equipped for? What are you mentally prepared for? How can you help in ways that are unique to you? What can you do that's unique to you? And in other words, what are your gifts, the things that are often overlooked but perfectly needed at this very moment? And I guarantee each of you has a skill or a talent or a gift or a proclivity, something that is innate to who you are, that you do all day, every day, that you don't think very much about, that is a gift that we often overlook and we tend to take for granted because we think, oh, it's just who I am. It's just how I am. It's just what I do. It's no big deal. But it is a big deal because when you marry who you are with where you are, that tends to create this little intersection. And in that intersection is a small corner. And in that small corner is where you can make a difference for yourself and for others. And it's about zeroing in, right? And Kristen and I talk a lot about not getting huge, not getting grandiose, unless that's your Dharma, but thinking it about zooming in. How can I get more zoomed into who I am and where I am? And so a living question here is, what talents, gifts, or skills that I may be overlooking are calling to me right now? You have so many that are in your little toolbox, so we all do. And we're not asking you to go out and utilize every single one of them in this very moment. But what is something that, for whatever reason, has got your attention right now? That's a gift or a skill worth paying attention to as it relates to recentering ourselves when things feel hard or particularly difficult or uncertain, as I think they do for a lot of us in this moment. And we often take our small corners for granted. We don't see them as maybe grandiose enough to solve big challenges that we face day to day. I know sometimes I question if where I am is enough, or if I am enough, or if my actions are going to have enough of an impact. But in the great work of your life, Stephen constantly points back to this really simple truth that when we look to our Dharma, to the greater truth that bigness is not some external accomplishment, it's really an internal commitment. And what you're internally committed to when you practice turning toward or recentering yourself in your Dharma is embodying your true self. And there is no, I want to repeat, each of us has a small corner because each of us is a small corner. And so you are your first small corner of the world. It's not just the place you are, it's that which you are. And that's where we each have to begin. And so tonight is really just about pointing us back to the place that we already embody, because it doesn't get easier. It's not like it's simple, not without challenge, but it doesn't get easier than looking in the mirror and going, oh, I know exactly where to begin because I know who I am. And I know what I can do because I'm paying attention to where I am. And what if it were that easy? What if that were the next directive or the next action you needed to take? And what if that action were enough? And so to help us do this, we do have tools. We'd like to give tools. So we're giving you a lot of information, which we've talked about and we will continue to talk about. We will continue to give this definition as many times as it takes to point us back to this. But we also want to present a couple of tools that we each use that you're already equipped to work with, that you're already using. We've already done these tools tonight. So secrets out, you've already done them. And I'll let Kristen kick us off with one of them.
Yeah, so my two words that keep coming up between the two of us, Andrea, are remember and recenter. And that's really what we're doing here is we're just like kind of turning back to like, oh yeah, like it's easy for our minds, our thinking minds to go out and be like, oh, what is going on? What, like, how do I deal with this? I'm so confused and things are so like discombobulated and uncertain. And we just have to like kind of remember that we're already equipped and we already know what to do, but it's just so easy for us to forget, especially because we live in a culture that is designed to distract us from our truth and from the wisdom that we already have and the practices that we already have. So you might at points feel like you're on rinse and repeat with us, but it's just we've already got it all. We just we all need reminding, and Andrea and I included. So the tools and practices, as Andrea said, we've already been working with tonight, and you've heard us speak of them many times. I'm going to first tell you about little remembrances about meditation. So why am I reminding you about meditation right now? Because meditation calms the mental chatter. It just does. It may seem like when you sit down to meditate, you encounter the mental chatter, and you do. But especially when you use a guided meditation or when you're in a class where you have like clear instruction that you can follow the bouncing ball, it gives the thinking mind something to do to just follow the instructions. Ultimately, the result is that it calms your mental chatter, it calms the mind, it calms the nervous system. Meditation also, no surprise, develops greater self-awareness. It just amplifies that we already know how to respond. And when we center ourselves again in the beingness of ourself, we are able to connect with that more easily. Um, it connects us with a greater perspective. It reminds us that, oh, I can kind of zoom out and not be so in the weeds of the day-to-day muck, but I can kind of like take that bird's eye perspective or maybe that mountaintop perspective and see things from a different altitude that helps me give some healthier perspective than I have when I'm down in the weeds. Meditation also cultivates non-attachment. It provides us an experience of not being in relationship with the thousands of thoughts when our eyes are open and we're watching the news and we open the paper and we go to a party and have all these conversations. It reminds us to sit and just be with what is within. And that allows us to cultivate greater non-attachment when we're out and about in our daily round. Meditation also deepens our courage. It deepens our commitment and it deepens our compassion. We all know this. But good reminders. When we sit and we practice meditation, it actually is like building our muscles for greater courage because of all the things that I already mentioned that we are cultivating. It also is a commitment to sit and practice, even if it's just my 5 by 5 rule, 5 days a week for 5 minutes each day. It can be that sweet and short, but it just helps you to show up for yourself and touch, even if it's just a little kiss of your higher self in that moment to remember to come back to. And of course, this ultimately all just cultivates that self-compassion, which will extend to others as well. So in short, meditation really just provides us with that inner steadiness and that clarity that we often need to navigate challenging times so that we can respond to those with wisdom rather than react from habit. It really does do that much for us, as simple as it may seem on the surface. So one of the core teachings from the Gita is established in being, perform action. Established in being, perform action. And that's really a reflection of everything that we've been talking about so far this evening. Establish that beingness. When we sit and practice meditation, we're connecting with our being, and we are just being rather than the doing and connecting with the doing. And from there, we can perform action more effortlessly, with more clarity, and more aligned with our values. So that really, to me, says it all for coming back to my meditation practice. Established in being, perform action. Dharma is the action that naturally arises when you're established in being. It's the way in which the universe with a capital U moves through you as an individual, and it's in service to evolution. It's in service to the greater good when you are established in a being. It just is inherently so. So this means that when you're deeply connected to your true nature, the right actions flow naturally. And by right action, this is a Buddhist term, and it's not like a morally, right or wrong um, quality. It is what is in service to the greater good and to yourself. What is in service to evolution? Science and philosophy both suggest that the universe is always evolving. That is its nature to move toward greater sophistication and harmony. And so that right action comes from that inherent drive that is the reality of the universe. So this isn't like some dogmatic belief, but an actual fundamental truth of the nature of reality, and one that we experience directly when we align with our highest self, either through meditation or the practice that any of the practices that we're offering you tonight that allow us to touch into that being. So, yes, the world might feel super messy and chaotic and uncertain and crazy and all those things. But history shows that over time, we do move toward greater awareness, toward greater connection, and toward greater intelligence. So evolution isn't a straight line. I think sometimes that's the frustrating thing that we have to admit and accept. It is a process of refinement, but it also can look very chaotic in times. Think about how a forest fire clears the way for new growth. um, a forest fire is extremely violent, extremely uncertain, extremely chaotic, extremely destructive, all of those things. But it is part of nature, and that upheaval is part of how nature moves. And that includes human consciousness too. Human consciousness is no different from that. It too evolves. So the key here is really choosing to frame things through the lens of evolution and to move with it, to move through it, established in being, performing action.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristen. The second tool that we want to offer, should be no surprise for anyone who has spent any time with myself or with Kristen, is writing in a journal. Such a simple, again, one of those practices that we all know can do. We all have, I imagine, the ability to do, and yet do we often pick it up? Just like the 5 by 5, so simple for meditation, we can apply that to journaling as well. 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And anything goes in a journal, but I do want to share just a few of the benefits that I've been doing a little bit of research around this, and it's quite cool what something so simple as pen and paper. I always have my journal here on my desk. Little, and any journal goes. It could just be one of these little throwaway tablets, or I have a lot of paper here, or one of these like little legal pads, whatever you're fancy. I used to journal on napkins, whatever you can find, because it isn't about the physical tool of it, it's the practice of it, and it's the commitment to it. Journal writing has been shown to be as effective as different forms of therapy in reducing things like depression and anxiety. Anxiety is something that we are, I believe, chronically and collectively living with as we speak. Anxiety is the inability to feel safe in the future. And right now, I think we are living in a time, and we have been for some time, where we are living in a chronic state of collective anxiety. So whether you feel anxious or not, you may be feeling others' anxiety as well. It seeps into our system. It's just kind of in the ether right now. And so one research team found that those who journaled 20 minutes a day, I know I just said 5 by 5, but 20 minutes a day, just 3 times, this wasn't 3 times a week or 3 times a day, just 3 times overall, had an improved immune system, reduced blood pressure, improved lung function, and improved liver function from putting pen to paper. I think that is so mind-blowing that something so simple could be so effective to our physical well-being. And journaling is what we would consider a contemplative tool. So its purpose is contemplation. Its purpose is active reflection. And we're not trying to get anywhere in a journal. We're not trying to solve anything. We're not trying to achieve anything. We're simply there to learn and reflect and be curious, just as you tried on one of those living questions. And I just gave you 2 minutes today, but you could go back and spend 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes with any of those living questions. You would find in there just some more information about yourself to yourself. And I often hear clients tell me, I don't want to journal because I don't want to see what's in my head. which I can appreciate. You don't have to keep what you write. It can be quite cathartic to burn it, shred it, douse it, bury it, get rid of it. However, anything that's bouncing around in your head, in your body, it's bouncing around in your head and in your body, and it is doing something in there unchecked and unexamined. And so a journal is a way to live an examined life, to know ourselves more truly and more deeply. It's also a practice that shows us over time the things we care about, the questions we're asking. It will point you to your Dharma. It will point you to your small corner of the world. I often go back and read journals and find entries from decades ago that I don't even remember what I wrote a week ago, let alone a decade ago. And I'm asking the same questions and I have the same curiosities, and my heart is curious about and empathetic towards the same causes. That's a finger pointing to the places I want to show up more intentionally in my own life. And so a journal it's your own little personal time capsule as well. There are no rules to journal writing. Anything truly goes. I do recommend pen to paper versus typing it out on your computer or on your phone. If that's all you have access to, great. Use what you have. But connecting with ourselves off of tech can be a really nice reprieve from all the time we spend online. Time journaling is a great way to bypass the "but what do I write about" question. So you can put 5 minutes on your timer. I always recommend starting with 5. Once you build your muscle up to 15 minutes, you don't need a timer. Just put pen to paper and let yourself flow. Julie Cameron, she founded The Artist's Way. She recommends something called morning pages, which is 3 pages a day. Now, depending on your journal size, that can get quite long. I have that experience, but that's an easy way to contain it. And then I also just love stream of consciousness, where we're just putting pen to paper and anything goes. You can use a prompt as a kickoff point, but then letting yourself just explore and see what wants to come through your pen. And the only thing I will say about that is do your best not to edit or critique. I don't even reread them right away. I just let them be. Just like let it simmer, let it out of the body, let it be. You can go back and integrate later. So we'll be sending you all those living questions from tonight as a way to work with your journal. You can also take those questions into a meditation or a reflection. Those are forms of contemplative practice as well. All right, so we have some time here as we wrap up to just open the floor for questions. Do you have any questions on the content that came up this evening, or some reflection? What did you get from this? What were you reminded or pointed back to? Anything you're curious about that we can speak to more thoroughly? So you're welcome to use the chat box or unmute yourself. But what are some things you're either taking away, and/or what questions you have for either Kristen or myself? April, I see your question in the chat box. I will do that for you.
It's Emma.
Hi, Emma.
Hi. I just wanted to say I love these living questions, and I don't think I've heard them before. I love the fact that you can ask yourself these things anytime, and they'll reveal something really deep and important. So thank you. I'm going to be using these a lot from now on. And I definitely got something from them already this evening.
Love that. Let us know how they work for you out in the real world,
Mm,
right?
mm,
One of my favorite living questions, just as sort of an overall reminder for me that's been super helpful, is how can I respond to the need of the moment
mm,
in a way that only I can? So when I bump up against something and I feel like, ah, I'm like, okay, how can I respond to this in the way that only I can?
mm,
Yeah. And it does. We never really know what it's going to reveal, but that's the beauty of it.
mm.
Thank you for sharing. I'm glad that they're already working for you.
Thank you.
And feel better soon, sister.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or reflections? Something you're taking out of our time together this evening that you want to share?
I'll say that I was doing consultations today, and I did three of them. And I opened with a guided meditation. So I got to receive, so this was the fourth guided meditation I had today. I'm just kind of like blissed out. So it does work.
It does work. What a wonderful way to spend the day. That's great. Yeah. And Jennifer just asked any recommendations on guided meditations. I'm going to let Kristen respond to that. I know she also has resources on her website.
Yeah, I'll drop that in the chat. I have on my resources page a section that has some apps. There's so many apps. I don't have them all on there, but just some of my go-tos and some that clients have told me that they also really enjoy. And then on my meditation page, I have 3 guided audio meditations that you can listen to, download, share for free. But yeah, I highly recommend exploring the apps. They're just so good, and it's such a great way to find a voice and find a style that works for you. And when I do my 7-day meditation startup, I oftentimes tell people try a different app each day. If you're going to meditate for 5 days this week, try a different app each day or a different teacher on one app, and just like make it fun, make it an exploratory R&D experiment, and just like the sample platter of meditations, if you will. And then, you'll find something that feels like good and nurturing, and you might go down a rabbit hole. Who knows?
Awesome. All right. We have time for one more question or reflection. Yes, Marcia just commented about The Artist's Way. Yeah, it's a wonderful book. And I think it's in, I don't even know, 30th year being printed, maybe 35th year printing. And it holds up, just holds up so powerfully. It's a book about creativity, but it begins with journal writing and what she calls artist dates, which is talk about recentering to yourself. You take yourself on a contemplative day of just imbuing your life with beauty. It's a wonderful practice. All right, any other questions here or reflections? All right, friends. So I want to share here, as we said, this will be something we're doing monthly. So our next Dharma hour is April 9th at 5 p.m. Our topic is when in doubt, seek Dharma out. Good job on rhyming on that one, Kristen. I think there's a song that goes with it too. There is the link. It is live if you want to register, as well as share it to your community, your friends, your neighbors. Again, your small corner of the world. This is one small thing you can do. If this style of content, if this type of community is something that anyone else in your world could really benefit from. And this is an all gendered space. So anyone goes, please share it. The more the merrier. We will also have this on our website as a live resource going forward. So you can find the recordings of these whenever you need them, but we'll be emailing this out as well with those journal prompts, those living questions that we spoke of this evening. Any final thoughts you want to share, Kristen?
Yeah, can I say just about doubt? So we're going to center just this idea of doubt, and that can include many things like uncertainty. But Andrea and I, and some of you in this space have been on retreat with us, and you know that we have at Dharma School and Return to Purpose a doubt day. We spend an entire day on doubt, and it is the most exciting and juicy and enlightening day, I think, on retreat. And it's always like, oh, people go into the day going like, oh no, it's doubt day. Oh my God. And it's just so much fun to come out the other side. So we have a new relationship that we can cultivate with doubt. So we hope you'll join us for that.
And we'll give you a little snippet of that. We won't take you into the trenches, but we'll give you a little glimpse into.
For sure. Thanks for
Yeah.
an
Please come
hour,
back. All right, everyone. Thank you so much, friends, for joining us. It's always lovely to join in our community and share the little pieces of our small corner of the world. So hopefully we'll see you all back here next month. And again, we'll send that link out to everyone. And thank you so much for being with us this evening. Please be well, be kind to yourselves. Take care. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.